Welcome to Small Insight, Big Impact. Today I'm going to share a story with you that I've never told people publicly. A story that people ask me every time. It's about why I left my continuing job with the United Nations after 15 years of work. I get this question every time I talk to people and I tell them, you know what, I spent 15 years plus in the UN. And they'll ask me, why did you leave? So today I'm going to share with you why I left the United Nations. And in my previous podcast, you will note I joined the UN with passion, determination, and a call to duty. So I was fortunate and lucky enough to be assigned to different duty stations. I worked at the headquarters in New York. I worked at the supply headquarters in Copenhagen. I was assigned to duty stations in Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, Eritrea, and I did a lot of short-term mission assignment to other countries as well. So overall, I enjoyed my time full of energy, zeal, and determination. While I was doing that, my family also had to deal with my continuous absence. The duty stations that I was assigned to at the start of my career were non-family duty stations. So in Sudan, my family had to live in Kenya, and I was making visits every 6 weeks. But that was fun, flying all over the place and enjoying the family. But as my boys, 4 sons, started growing, they needed a lot more of my time, and also with my values being faith, family, friends, and work, I felt I needed to prioritize family over what I do for a living. So on different occasions, I had the opportunity to interact with people and express my interest in working, being based in the U.S., where my family is, and doing a 9 to 5 job, more or less, making life easy and spending time with my 4 sons as they grew up, and my wife, my dear wife. Yeah, so I continued working, enjoyed every duty station. But when my boys got to high school, I realized they needed more of my time and direction. Sometimes I had to do homework over the phone, 9 hours times difference. All that played a role in my decision making. So it got to a point I asked myself, wait a minute, how do you deal with all this at the same time? Yes, you have a good job, everything seems to be okay, but then your family or your sons and wife are actually not getting the best of your time. I know it's a difficult balance trying to put food on the table and also raise a family being around. So based on interactions with a couple of friends and my mentors, I came to the decision point that being my sons growing up and being teenagers now, this is the right time to spend with them and guide them as they grow up to that stage. So I decided that I needed to look for a job that will keep me at home so that I'll be able to have time with them. That was after I'd been given or appointed on a continuing contract. I don't know if you're familiar with the UN. A continuing contract literally means it's sort of it's a contract that cannot be terminated. The UN stopped issuing permanent contracts, so that was sort of the gold star in UNICEF at that time. So I was on that, but eventually I decided I needed to move on and spend more time with my family. So that decision came, but then how do I do that? So I kept on waiting for the best time and see how that will play out. A couple of options came, but then I'll share that later on a different podcast. So when I was in Eritrea, I got a call from staff in Catholic Relief Services that they're looking for somebody to head their water and environment program, and that they got my contact from somewhere. So if I am interested, they would like to talk to me about that. So I said, why not? So I took on that conversation. Long story short, I was offered that job initially with the decision to be based in Baltimore, but I told them that I needed to be at home in Indianapolis because I am leaving the UN because I want to be with my family. So if I'm not going to be allowed to work from home in Indianapolis, then I wouldn't accept that offer. So gladly they were flexible and allowed me to be based in Indianapolis and then working at the Baltimore office. That's how I got that offer. And then the decision time. Literally, I had to do an Excel spreadsheet in terms of the advantages and the disadvantages as they align with my priorities. So I did that and realized it's not going to be a tough decision, but then I needed to make that decision anyway in the interest of my family and how my values are aligned. So, with all the benefits, with all the other, opportunities, I felt that I needed to move on. So I offered to resign, which was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Uh, because I was also due for reassignment. Literally means I had done my tour at my current duty station, so I was waiting to be reassigned to a different duty station. So I pulled that call, and then and that was the end. And then eventually I left and then took up a position as a global senior advisor for Catholic Relief Services in the area of water and environment. So that it was not an easy decision, I must say, but then I had to listen to my inner call and also look at what exactly my values are and what I expect things to be with my family. That was something that it is not an easy decision. I must tell you. In hindsight, things would have been a bit more smoothly. But leaving taught me a couple of lessons that I want to share with you. Because when I left the UN, something incredible happened. I didn't actually lose myself. I didn't actually lose myself. More important, what actually happened was I found myself. I realized at the time I was on autopilot, more or less, not really just doing things and then following. So, but then that pause or change of rhythm in the way I work helped me to rediscover myself and get to know what I needed to do. In other words, my social account, emotional accounts were barely almost empty, but then the economic account was quite okay. But as is required for every rounded professional, all our accounts have to be in the positive side. So I needed to work on those aspects. So that taught me a good lesson of recalibrating, rediscovering myself, and working towards other potential and other skill sets that I downplay or did not actually recognize during my time with the UN. I also realized that sometimes, when you're in a comfort zone, it sometimes it ends up being like your own enemy. Because what happens then is, when you have a good job, it seems not to be a bit more, I would say, uh, forceful in terms of what to do and how you should live. You feel it's sort of established that life it's good and everything, so you don't stretch yourself to be able to know what potentials that you have and what you can. So that sort of helped me to sort of see that sometimes to be able to reach your full potential, you have to move away from your comfort zone and embrace the unexpected. So that was quite of a good learning for me during that transition time. The other thing that my leaving the UN taught me was it gave me the opportunity to grow, because I'd learned a lot from different missions. Lucky enough to work for the program division, the supply division, and also having gotten field level experience. I felt I had a lot to share and a lot of experience to be able to build on, and wherever I find myself, I should be able to hit the ground running, more or less. So that was something that I also picked up after leaving. The other thing that also I liked that with my departure was, even though I was leaving at that time, given the context and the need to be with my family, I did not actually quit, being somebody who always wanted, rights and people's basic necessities provided. So wherever I found myself, I made it a point to see how best I can contribute to that aspect. So, because the UN taught me a lot, that I feel that I am sort of expected to share whatever I know in whatever situations I find myself. And after leaving, a lot of opportunities came. I got to do other things different from the UN, and I realized that if I hadn't taken that step or jumped off at that point in time, most of the things that I had to do to discover or develop I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do that. So it was a tough call, but a necessary call that sort of reshaped my professional and personal life, because I had the courage to move on and then step into the unknown. So that was also another thing um, that I learned from that whole process. So with that, people ask you, what are you doing now? Yeah. So after that, I spent 2.5 years leading Catholic Relief Services program, and I was working from home. And then later on, I transitioned from that. So currently, I work for the Indiana State government as the Chief of Technical and Logistical Services in the Office of Water Quality. So that's what I do on a daily basis. Work normal working hours, spend a lot more time with family. Had to do a whole lot of other things that I feel very satisfied and fulfilled for. So after leaving the UN, I actually stepped into a season of unknown, and sometimes that season can take a lot. But mine was a bit. It's not going. It's still not over yet. It's still a season of, building and also re-identifying one's priorities, and also getting certain things done that I couldn't do while I was in the UN. Because, when you're in the UN, you cannot take on certain tasks or do certain things without the permission of the Secretary General or his appointee. So, but with my current situation or what I do now, I'm free to teach, to be on boards and do other stuff that are quite interesting and also very fulfilling to me and the family as well. So, what I want you to remember from this podcast today is if you're in a place where your heart has moved on based on how your values are aligned, you better take a decision or take a moment to reflect and see what decisions you can make to ensure that your values are well aligned. If you are afraid to leave something big because you don't know what next, well, ask yourself before that, what were you doing? As though you always have a way to live on. So just make sure that you consider that and think through it deeply. Weigh the pros and cons and make an informed decision. In most cases, initially it won't be easy, but eventually it will work out well if you stick to your plan. If any one of you expect to stay in wherever you do, but your soul knows that it is time to move on, the same applies to you. You need to do self-reflection. Don't go with the passion alone. Put pen on paper to work the pros and cons and then make an informed decision, knowing very well that there will be headwinds, and then also charting how you'll be able to manage or deal with the headwinds as you meet them on your next journey. Your destiny won't bloom in a place where you've stopped growing. So you better start thinking twice and reflecting on what next. Thank you for joining me for this deeply personal episode. If this message moved you, share it with someone who is standing at a crossroad in their life or career. Don't forget to like or comment or subscribe to Small Insight, Big Impact for stories and also insights that will encourage you. Until next time, see you and all the best.